Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos, Insightful Conversations. And today is November 19th, just heading into the United States Thanksgiving. And there's a lot to be thankful for. This winter season, the stars, when they are crisp and clear, are so beautiful. Venus is in the morning. She's just amazing. And it's kind of difficult to see the rest unless you can just catch Jupiter before she crosses into the western sky horizon. Today, we're talking about the sacred hoop. This is a set of stars, an asterism. That's like a collection, a pattern of stars that isn't actually a constellation, because the stars go between quite a few constellations. And I have today a wonderful guest who was with us for a long time, Shannon Hayes. She was on Cosmic Collaboration, for those of you that remember us in our pure podcast days before we became morphing into the YouTube terrain, which is very exciting. It gives us all these great graphics. So with that, I think if I can have the slides. Wonderful. Yeah. Hi, Shannon. And Nate, if I can have the slides up. Oh, goody. Okay. So just to explain a little bit about Shannon, what she's doing these days: astrology consultant and a photographer and stargazer. Shannon's certified evolutionary astrologer with Maurice Fernandez complete course. And that's a pretty complete course. I've taken it too without being certified initially. And Shannon's also studying Mayan astrology, and they coordinate really well with her consultations with evolutionary, and taking classes with Cayelin Castell for the stars and shamanic teachings that she has. She's an entrepreneur, loves animals, nature lover. She does tarot astrology posts on Instagram. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook. She's working her website, so that's in the makings. And hello. Oh, and if you want to get in touch with her, I have her email here, Sheena. Anyway, you can see it there. And myself, you can always check my credentials out, however it is. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, Sue. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to explore this area, the heavens. Oh, boy. Not everybody talks about it.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, especially this time of year when everything's rising. And by January, you'll actually get to see the whole hoop in the sky, which is really nice. So, yeah. Lots to see.
I think inspired by you, I woke up one morning early, like it was dark here in Hawaii. And I thought, oh, I think I'll go see the star, because immediately I can see Venus. So it's like, who else can I see? Can I see Jupiter? Because Jupiter's right on the horizon, but maybe because the ocean curves, I can't ever see by the time I get there. It should be there, but I can't see it. But I saw the hoop. I thought, oh boy, thank you, hoop. And it was spectacular. So these fixed stars, humanity's used them forever for navigation. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Forever. Yeah. I mean, it's like the stars have been beckoning humans since the dawn of time, right? It's like they all want to be seen. They want to be communicated with. And the stars have a lot to tell. You know, the fixed stars, if you're looking in ancient astrology, the fixed stars in the circle where there's fixed stars, and then there are the wandering planets, right?
Yes.
Right? On the ladder to the heavens, right? So the fixed stars are right at the top there, you know, and they constantly are being overlooked a lot in modern astrology. And recently, with the resurgence of, especially a lot of younger people getting more and more into the ancient astrology, there's a resurgence in the interest of fixed stars. And like you were saying, all of those stars have their stories, and a lot of the stars started out as navigational tools back in the, in the day, right? Because we didn't have light pollution and all this stuff, and everybody looked up. And then, right, light pollution, everybody's looking down, they're looking at their phones,
and
they look on the street, nobody looks up.
And it's technology. Instead of the sky being our entire existence, night and day, as we have this primary spin of Earth, we have paper and tools, and we start to calculate calendars and whatnot. But the stars give us our four directions: the north, south, east, west, and whether we're on land or sea, like Spike has been great for the ocean. But they're fixed because, as you said, planet means wandering star. Right. So that's what the planet is. But they move very slowly. And over a lifetime, like 72 years, it's 1 degree.
Right.
And that's it.
Well, and that's also why, I mean, from probably late October, early November, if you're watching certain constellations rise, right? Like you see all the constellations that are in that hoop rising come November, right? And by January, that area of the sky is right over our head.
This is exciting. Should we talk a little bit about this is astronomy, but just give a little indication. We won't get too much into it, but the Earth
is interesting.
Yeah. I know we've studied with Brett and different people. So the axis north-south, it tilts 23 degrees and 44 minutes, but it's headed north. But because it wobbles, and if people go on their slides later afterwards, this will actually gyrate. But with this system, it doesn't show that motion. And it's a long cycle, 26,000 years to be exact, 25,920. But it's a precession cycle. That's what it refers to. And of course, we're pointing to Polaris, the North Star, but that changes. It was Thuban, and it will be Thuban again. That's one of the stars in this big circle.
Or Vega.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're heading towards Vega.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. We're moving away from, and we'll get involved in that too. Yeah. Was there something more you wanted to say about that? I know I carried on.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but yeah, this picture of the sacred hoop is actually a really good one, because you can actually see it's not, because of where things are in the sky, it's not an actual circle. It has its angles, so the stars are all like kind of going their own way around this particular point.
That's
and
green.
Then you have green. Right? Yeah, and then you have Orion and the Pleiades in there also. So it's humongous by January. It's like this is like the small shot of it, but I mean it's pretty huge in the sky.
Right? I saw it. It was huge. And
it's
being
huge.
Because I'm southern latitude more in Hawaii, it was pretty much overhead. Right. And of course, I'm talking about 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock.
Right.
That it may have been. But so moving for folks, these stars are Rigel at the bottom there, you can see, and Sirius, which I know we'll talk about a lot, Procyon going up in the middle on the left. Then there's the twins, Pollux and Castor. And then over on the right-hand side, Capella. And here it doesn't show, it shows Aldebaran, but we'll get into that. It's really the Pleiades for the sacred hoop, which has Alcyone.
Right.
So, and we can see Orion is a hunter, and it has those, and that's on the interior side. You can see the constellation there, and Betelgeuse is part of it. But all of these factors will come up. Should I go to the next slide?
Sure. Go to the next slide. Let's see what it is.
Oh, well, here I have it on the horoscope for those people that want to see, is it close to my, right today, close to my natal planets or something of that sort. And they move so slowly, as I say, every 72 years. So approximately these are, if you were born more than about 72 years ago, they'll be a degree earlier, or you can gauge that.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you have like, from November to February, a really good view of it. I mean, that's the beauty of things moving so slow, is that you have plenty of time. So, I mean, not everybody gets really good weather in those months.
No.
And on a really clear night, because right now they're rising. So some of them are, it's.
I think we just lost Shannon. She'll come right back. I will say to folks that this particular chart, the stars are as, oh, hi, you came back, Shannon. Hi. I was going to say, that I think it was, unless it was me, but you look frozen.
You were too.
Oh, okay. We both. Well, that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
They're in Gemini and Cancer, in those actual signs. And I will mention, just not to read this chart, but we can notice that Alcyon is at 0 degrees Gemini, and Saturn is at 0 degrees Pisces, meaning those are mutable. So they're in this action square. And Alcyon, not to elaborate much, but represents, from what we were talking about earlier, the moon and tranquility.
Right.
So thinking of that just generally, because there's always such huge dynamics with every star, but Saturn in Pisces is breaking down conditionings and traditions, we could say. So this is an opportune moment to enhance, because Saturn's going to stay at 0 degrees and come back there, has been and will continue to. So we're in this big process, we could say immediately, of readjusting how we might see our conditioning about what makes us tranquil, or why we're not tranquil, or maybe seeing the big picture, or the more unity involved with everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, and look at what's happening in Israel, and they're trying to find a peaceful solution now.
Oh,
so that's interesting.
Oh, that's hopeful.
Yeah, I just read that today. Like, they're actually, because they can't, I mean, you can't keep slaughtering people to try to find peace. You have to negotiate.
What goes around comes around. Yeah, it's so complex there. We'll put our blessings on it, and thank you for introducing that idea. We can keep light. Everybody shine light on that. Okay.
Right.
So here, Lakota Sacred Hoop of Stars. And what is fascinating, which I'm eager to hear more of your thought, of your understanding, is it mirrors. It's this pilgrimage of spots that the Lakota heritage takes on a journey of the stars in the Dakotas, and that the meeting place is Bear Mountain, Bear Lodge, and also the idea of the Silver Gate, which I think we'll revisit as we go along, but that's where there's 2 gates, folks. Souls entering near the Pleiades, and then where they exit out the Golden Hoop, which is at the triangle, I think, in the summer solstice. But here we're talking about Silver Gate, Heaven's Gate. And it's a lot to do about the galactic center, and that's our galaxy that we'll talk about too. What do you want to say now about the Black Hills and the Dakotas?
So I mean, it's pretty fascinating, because this hoop in the wintertime lines up with, they call it Devil's Tower, but to the Native Americans, it was Bear's Lodge. And it's a very sacred area, and it's an area where some of their elders have passed on, their teaching elders, and that's one of the reasons why. I mean, there are also stories around it too, but this mirrors not only the Black Hills, but specifically lines up with Bear's Lodge in the wintertime. And as it's lined up with Bear's Lodge, it also the Milky Way runs through it, right? So some of their stories that are about when they incarnate, leaving the planet, going to their higher dimension, they walk the pathway of the Milky Way to get to the other side. So I mean, there again, I mean, it's like a lot of these stars are still navigational in that sense, right? Because it's like drawing
Yes.
a picture of an area that is walked by the passing as they leave the earth plane. So I just thought that was so fascinating, just the whole story around it and how it lines up.
It is. Oh,
Well, there was the Kiowa and Lakota in particular, right? They pray to that area. They had one of their teachers that was, well, especially the Cheyenne. The Cheyenne had oh God, I can't remember his name. It's terrible. One of their cultural speakers that brought teaching to them. He was a
Sun
great
Bear,
teacher. Hmm?
Black Elk, Sun Bear.
No, not Sunbear. He was older than that. It was
Yeah, okay.
oh God, I can't think now.
That's all right.
My
Well,
head's like blocked up with all this stuff. Anyway, yeah. Anyways, it's really important. It's an important part of them. It's sacred to them. They do a lot of ceremonies, even to this day. They have in the past, and they also are constantly trying to teach these ancient teachings to the younger.
yes, it's continuing. And one
Right.
of the factors that, because I too have been fascinated thinking of
Right.
Sun Bear way back in the 70s, I remember a flyer and I was so eager to go there. And other things happened. I was in my late 20s and it didn't manifest.
Right.
But it's a pilgrimage in a sense that is ongoing throughout the year. It's like really
Right.
embracing life and nature into your soul, what with the heavens and this whole process. It's just really powerful.
So the name of, okay, so I mean, real quick, because I just got over my brain part, was their elder teacher. His name was Sweet Medicine.
Oh,
So it was Sweet Medicine. He passed away there. So a lot of them would go there to pay respects and hold ceremony. And actually, how do you say, Baha'i religion
yes,
actually
hi, right.
recognizes the teachings of, Sweet Medicine. Interesting. I just thought it was interesting.
It is. The Baha'is it's like they have total unity between all, to the fact that nobody votes, everybody votes for who they want to be the
Right.
leader. And the person never asked, but if there were 5 of us and one person got 3 votes, that person would be the leader. So there
Right.
you go. And
Yeah.
you acknowledge that, and you realize that you have the confidence of the people and you lead on. But no difference
Right.
between men and women. It's just a fascinating. I knew a woman
Right.
that was very
Yeah,
devout and built it up a lot. I mean, in her
exactly.
community.
Right.
So here we have Bear Mountain was also for the Lakotas called Matopaha, but it was also Bear Lodge or Bear Teepee, I believe.
Right.
You were
Yep.
saying in the Cheyenne, it's Noavase, and it's many Plains Indians. Like
Right.
ones you were mentioning were Lakota, Cheyenne, Crow,
Arapaho.
Arapaho,
Mhm.
Shoshone, and Kiowa, and others that I have in this wonderful book. It's The Dance in the Sky, Native American Sky. I don't think we can see it. They
I
dance in the
see it.
sky, Native American star myths, besides all the other star books. But they mention the Blackfoot, the Pawnee, Mandan, Assiniboine,
Right.
Omaha, and Comanche. So here we have Orion, the hunter, inside the sacred hoop with
Mhm.
Sirius.
Right. Yeah, we do. Interesting. Yeah, Sirius. Sirius, I know, it's just been so important in the night sky for, I mean, millennia, right? I mean, there's so many stories around Sirius. You know, I mean, it could be Sirius who was leading the three wise men to the Christ, especially at that time. And since Sirius is the brightest star in the sky and is also the closest to us, Sirius is so easy to see at
Yes.
night,
When
right?
I looked up to see the stars, I allowed myself, what do I want to choose on? And I chose Sirius. And then when I looked at my phone app, I went, Sirius, of course. Yes. And that's Sirius, folks, for those that are listening. And it was called in the Pawnee, which is the Skidee part of the Pawnees in Nebraska, that they felt that the South Star ruled winter, because a lot of these are legends and some people wrote them down and they're trying to piece them together. And
Right.
since we're not native heritage, you know, we're trying our best too. But it's very well thought that Sirius is that, the white star. And it would make sense, so bright and in that location with the stories.
Right. Yeah.
But
And
it's
it
the dog
rules,
star. Mhm.
right. Well, and like you said, I mean, it rules winter. You know, it's also a New Year's star, right? It's a calendar star,
Yes,
right?
for the Nile when it
Right.
flooded.
Yep.
It began our calendars. In this book here, it brought up a fascinating correlation between Sirius, which is in the dog constellation, which is the
Canis
major
Major, right?
Canis,
Yeah.
yeah, whereas Procyon is in the
Minor,
minor.
Canis
But
Minor.
in the nomadic days before settlers came with horses, they didn't have horses and used dogs to transport and as their helper. So it
Right.
was the dog days. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dog days of summer too, right?
Yes, and that's right. It's and you were bringing up, please, that all over the world, it's dogs are often brought up with Sirius. It's fascinating.
Right. No, it really is.
So I guess we need to bring up this fact for myself. It was my education and perhaps others too, that there's a difference between what's called the sacred hoop and the winter hexagon. They're totally identical. There's one vertex that's like adjoining the star point that's different, and that's the Pleiades, which has Alcyone as its main headquarters of 0 degrees Gemini right now.
It's the
Headquarters.
brightest in that constellation. Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon. And instead, the winter hexagon, as you will notice in some of those slides that I was able to find okay to present, with Aldebaran, which is one of the royal stars. It's the eye of the bull, but they're both in the Taurus constellation. And Aldebaran means the follower because it seems to follow the Pleiades. So generally, they're in teamwork, I'd say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really the only difference in why they use the Pleiades and not Aldebaran. I think it just has to do, and I don't know for sure, but just what I was reading, it has more to do with some of the stories around the
Yes.
Pleiades, right? Because
Yes.
they have stories about Bear's Lodge, that famous mountain, and um, the girls who were chased by a bear that were trying to get away from the bear, right? And they ran up to the top to get away from the bear, and the bear was trying to climb the tower. And the reason they have those long lines in bears' lodges from the bear sliding down with his claws.
Mm.
And so they were praying to Great Spirit, and Great Spirit took them and threw them in the sky. Yeah, kind of a cool story, right? I mean,
And
it's similar to so many other stories of the Pleiades, right?
Pleiades are central to all of North America's, and this book actually goes down below. Some call them seven sisters because there's seven. It's a cluster. It's a cluster of stars, and some seven brothers. So it's fascinating with that. But the stories go on and on, and so yes, and it's a bright, and also as we will continue with this, folks, just to talk to our audience directly. The sacred hoop involves also the medicine wheel, and it's a unity. And so I think having seven stars that represent sisters or brothers, it shows that unity between people, that connection with that inherent connection between nature, our world, and each other, as an ideal, as a focus.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think we're a mite early, but not really. So folks, keep your flame burning, sunrise or sunset, if you're watching this later, because we're going to cut away. We have our candle lit, and we'll be right back with Shannon Hayes for Sacred Hoop of the Fixed Stars. And this is January 19th. So stay tuned. We love you, and we'll be back. Thanks.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, now ruled by Pluto. By departing a cycle based on comparison between extreme energies finding balance, Scorpio commits a relationship to exchange resources, experiencing power and powerlessness for the purpose of soul growth transformation. As a fixed water sign that is extreme, intense, and secretively deep, Scorpio's passionate nature questions the psychology and mystery concerning life and death.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Natasha Venter at angeliclarifications.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, it's an encore presentation. Join us to hear our last healing show with Dr. Nels and Linda Rasmussen. Together, they help listeners and their animal friends with emotional, behavioral, and physical issues, and you can get a surrogate healing just by listening and following along with Linda's directions. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Conversation you won't find on the rest of the dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
We're right back again, as I can see. And we have, if you are interested with Shannon Hayes, she does have her website, although it's been along a process of updating, but you can still email her. and you can find that on Talk Cosmos too. Talk Cosmos has all the guests. And so anytime you want to find out, and we have the links and lots more. The Galactic Center, presently at 27 degrees Sagittarius, that crossing point of the ecliptic, our celestial equator. And that's the sun's path with all the planets. And it intersects with the Milky Way and this cross. I love that picture. Do you have any? I can go to the next slide, or what would you like to?
Why don't we go to the next slide? We'll see why we're talking about it. Right? Yeah, so like you were saying, the Milky Way, right? So the sacred hoop crosses over the Milky Way. The Milky Way is their like path of the departed, and the galactic center, right, is also a crossing point for souls. So yeah, so everything kind of, there's an intersection there, so they're all kind of connected, right?
This is a wonderful slide that is okay to do if you give credit to the Commons org. And I have listed all of that. It's the sun, earth, moon around the Milky Way. And of course, the Milky Way is that huge batch of, it looks like a disc from our, because we're on the side of it, you know, we're not on top of it, we're along it. And it's just this beautiful white path that which is where the souls would travel in their life to exiting, entering and exiting.
Yep, exactly.
And for those people that want to read, this is not about it, but it does tell a little bit about the inclination, and that's a lot of it. It's not all straightened down, but because it's at angles, it can intersect.
Right.
So, and the fact that we spin our revolutions of our Earth, primary, is counterclockwise, which is our primary is clockwise. That's right. And the secondary going around the sun is counterclockwise.
Right.
A lot of astronomy is all fascinating, and
I know.
begins to clue in things.
Right.
In fact, I'm doing chart construction with Laura Nalbandian, and that too
that's
really
so
brings
fascinating.
in the heavens on a very literal basis, because it's latitudes and longitudes that are coming from the sidereal, which is sidereal. Sidereal astrology is per the stars, the fixed stars, whereas tropical is with the directions.
Right.
Well taught by Gemini Brett.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's huge. Like when you watch the night sky, you see it, right?
Yeah, and you become part of it, because we're
right?
so insulated with our calendars and our paper, which is important tools, but to reach out and get that embracive business. And that must be one thing that I think Saturn and Pisces is helping us do, is to refocus and diagram what our framework is.
Right. Well, yeah, and just to get out in night and watch the sky and watch it move and watch the Milky Way, you know. And it's like, you know, when there wasn't all that light pollution, it was so much easier to learn that. Like they had such a deep connection with the sky, right? You know, not just the day sky, but especially the night sky. You know, a lot of them travel at night, you know, and a lot out of it protection too, right? I mean, you know, because it was wilder times, there weren't quite so many laws, and it was safer to travel at night. So, you know, I mean, it just kind of makes sense that they like had such a good understanding.
And use those stars in its directions too, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. And the very fact of being nomadic, having to follow the birds or the foods, it's deep in our souls. It's deep. It's really true. And here we have the Northern Cross, which there's various terminologies. There's a sacred hoop, which is this large rising asterism that's especially going to be in January, February, and March. But the Northern Cross is like a marker of seasons, because it remains the same, but it changes its direction depending on the seasons. So in winter, it's like the backbone, which is another slide, standing straight up and down.
Yeah, it's actually part of Cygnus, the swan constellation. Yeah. Yep, and there it is. That's a nice photo of it. And you can see the cross, and then you also see the triangle.
Yeah, this was from
Is that Earth and
Earth
Sky?
Sky,
Yeah.
earthsky.org.
Yeah.
And
They
so
always
this
have
is a
great one.
summer triangle, but yet it shows the northern, and that's different stars, folks, Vega that we're heading to. And
Right.
interestingly, because from the south, Sirius, where we're moving from, and it's because
Right.
of that tilt with the axis.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Did you have something else? Should
Well,
we
no,
go back?
well, the other thing that, like you just mentioned, Sirius again. I mean, and Sirius has a lot to do with our past, like you were saying, right? Ancestors and where we come from. You know, Sirius has like such a deep connection with like human beings, I think. That's just what I feel like. You know, if you go out in the night sky and you actually tune into Sirius for a while, it's amazing like what you can learn.
This is really valuable. It is with the connection, our communication, and it is intuitive sensing. And if we're leaving from an area, we have history there. There are
Right.
ancestors there. It makes, and as it is, the Capricorn is in the southern hemisphere on the chart, on the horoscope. So therefore, this winter solstice coming up is in the south.
Right.
And Sirius is a southern star.
Right.
And so and this, it's like a direction, that where we're leaving. And so, yes, I love this reminder that to go with the wisdoms of the heritages. Yes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because if we are going with Alcyone, the tranquility of and this square that we're doing with Saturn, I'm thinking, which is very hands-on. Saturn we can see. Saturn's our timekeeper. We relate a lot with Saturn.
Right.
That we're still trying to bridge a new awareness, a new experience of our lineage with life, and that embraces the past. It's not just where we're headed. It's like,
right.
What are we going to take with us?
Right. Well, and it's like the story, of the sisters that climbed Bear's Lodge and praying to Great Spirit, right? So they're praying to the God of the sky, right? Basically the creator, right? To be
Great Spirit, yes.
Right, for help. And, they take them to the sky. It's like, really all we have to do is look up.
Speaking of that, here's the winter triangle, which is exactly what we were talking about. It's also called, I don't know if it was just Cayelin Castell, it calls it the Southern Stellar Gateway, Ancestral Origins Gateway, but those are great terms. I'll give credit.
Cayelin, Eric, Roth, yeah,
they're great teachers, and I know you do ongoing classes. Here, I created this frame to show that where the constellations are in reference to these triangle, which is a 60-degree unilateral triangle, as it is, with Betelgeuse, which is at 29 degrees, Gemini at the top, and Sirius down there at the bottom in Canis Major, which is the big dog, and Procyon, which is in the little dog, Canis Minor. And Betelgeuse is right in the Orion. Is that in the hand that he's holding, not the belt or the sword?
I think that.
Yeah, I think it's the hand.
I don't think Orion. I mean, Betelgeuse, no, it's not in the belt. It's
it's in the shoulder. It's in his shoulder. That's what I read. Betelgeuse is in the shoulder of Orion, because Orion is this huge figure, the hunter, with the head and the arms and the belt, and the belt points towards the Norse. Yeah. Shall we go on, or did you want to? Oh, here for those folks that want to know about these three, because Sirius and Procyon are also in. Betelgeuse is the only one that's not in the sacred hoop. So if people are interested,
Right.
here you can see what today is. Betelgeuse 29, Gemini, Sirius at 14. And Sirius is actually what the United States forefathers based their Independence Day on. You know, that was so much part of the whole heritage from Egypt, like you brought forward, you know, with the calendar and the
Right, the
Procyon.
Masons and right.
Yeah. So here it is. Let's talk about the hoop. We'll finish here with the hoop and the medicine wheel. It's all combined. There is, I will mention, introducing this, I was just reflecting in a story from the Dance in the Sky Native American Star Myths, that there was one story of the creation with carrying the pipe, the pipe. And as it turns out, where to have a safe home for the pipe where it would be revered and respected. And they came up, it was chosen an area, but the snake was used, agreed to be the hoop. And it was a garter snake, it was a water snake. According to this, it was the Pawnee, I believe, that this particular story is from.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so that's just invited as a sacred wheel, which is also fascinating because
Right.
the aurora borealis with the nodes, you know, of where we are past, which is the south node, and where we integrate the north node, you know, the correlations go across the cultures.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And the medicine wheel is so similar to the sacred hoop, right? I mean,
Yes. That's
you know, I mean, the hoop is also directional. The medicine wheel is directional, right?
These each represent a color.
Right.
The white, yellow, red, and black.
Right.
And
yep, in a direction.
White is south, and I believe yellow is east. Boy, I hope I'm not wrong here. So in other words, red is north and black is west, I believe. So it goes south, north, east, and west. Yeah. And this is a symbol of National Indigenous Peoples Day, this particular photo with the 4 colors.
That's very cool.
Yeah, the hoop. There's so many stories about the hoop and games, many games. There was a game where one tribe had a hoop and they'd follow it and they'd have 2 sticks, because on the medicine wheel that was created, maybe people probably perhaps see the medicine wheels that the Lakota's tribe is still sends out, you know, but there were marks and they were for the seasons. And so they take sticks and they throw them at the hoop and call out the spots. So it was like an ability, a skill, and a connection, which probably had more meaning than that. Perhaps if you hit something and you didn't make it, maybe there was some meaningfulness to that. But it shows this, according to what this one blog, nativehope.org, which is from an indigenous tribal group, probably there in the Lakotas. It says that the Sioux concept that everything in the universe is related and connected. Growth and progression on the medicine wheel.
Yep. As above, so below. Right?
Yes, Hermes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have stories about
That's very cool.
that you would like to share on the medicine wheel, or maybe about series or the I'm going to end the slides here. I'm just going to
End
show
the
people
slides.
real quick, and then Shannon and I will talk. So here you can go there. Yeah, Shannon.
Hi.
So right now we can look at the stars. This is the end of November. So really it's, and I know, and thank you for
Sorry.
joining us. I know you've got a seasonal cold that just happened to lodge into you. So
Right in
take
my
a break
throat.
if you want, that's fine. Are there other books that there was a book that I know you reference.
Yeah, the Lakota Star Knowledge is a really great book about the sacred hoop and some of the stories about the hoop. I mean, there's so many stories about it. You could kind of go on and on and on. And
Well, I
and
love a good story.
some of I know, I wish that my throat was better. I could actually talk more about this, but it's like not really coming out very well today.
And I will
But yeah.
say that the star. Oh, I just everything
No, I was
fell
going to
off.
say they also call like the hoop the racetrack, right? Because you see that all the different stories about the different constellations kind of following each other, right?
Yes. And I love that. Reminds me that wonderful names. Like, for instance, the North Star is the star that doesn't walk around, or the pole star. I mean, it's so logical as far as like, this is what we're experiencing and we got to deal with it. You know, it's like it's not just a category that we shelf somewhere. It's something that exists, that has a meaningfulness, that roots it into the sky, into our
Right?
life on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
exactly. It's totally alive. I mean, all these stars are alive beings. You know, they're beings just as we are. They have different bodies and different energy, but you know, they're all
Yeah.
alive and they want to be communicated with too. They want their stories to be told. You know, they don't want to be forgotten. So, I mean, that's why I think like stars are so important, you know, and their stories. This is just one of my favorite stories about about the stars, I guess, the sacred hoop.
It needs to be, because to have a practice that incorporates a ritual that involves so much attention and collaboration, because as you were saying, many tribes would convene to go to the Bear Lodge at that spot, besides traveling, you know, over the terrain. It involves, it's a lot like in Europe, and they
Right.
have the
They're
Stonehenge also, which people
right?
convene at in order to celebrate solstices and for
Right.
honoring. And they go great distances. I mean, hundreds of
Right.
miles,
Oh
which
yeah,
back then was laborious.
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a pilgrimage, you know. I mean, there's a purpose to it. They're not just going there just to see it. They're, you know,
Right. Take a
right?
picture and come home
Right.
on your sand. Exactly. And you know, the Zuni Indians of New Mexico, called the Pleiades, the seven, you know, the star cluster, the seeds,
Oh, nice.
because their shape and use in deciding when to plant. Because again,
Ah,
as you said, they rise. So when you see
right.
these and notice, you begin to take a correlation. It's just like, you know, early in the morning, certain birds will begin to sing before the sun comes up. And
Right.
you realize, oh, the sun is happening. Now, there's these connections with nature that seem to walk with us. And I think with
Right.
Saturn and Pisces, perhaps with that square because it's always takes time to begin to feel, what is the meaningfulness of this? But to have Asalon, am I saying that right? I have trouble with Alcyone. Yeah, Alcyone. Yeah, it was the Y. Alcyone. To have that kind of subtle, overarching, long, stable connection, because it is said that the outer planets, much less the outer stars, have this long, enduring focus that penetrates, through all the changes. It's like going back to go with a little bit different information. So possibly we're incorporating, for our sake of tranquility, to connect with what is important in the world, like the ocean that's behind me in this picture, our common heritage, that, if nothing else, water connects all of us more than, that and sunlight.
We're all from the same place, right? From the same creator. We're all one, basically, like the medicine wheel talks about,
Yes. Yeah, the stars are hydrogen and helium. It begins to, and I think through that compression because it takes more energy for it to exert outside of that corona. I thought that was fascinating. One time in my research, it was like, holy mackerel. And they haven't quite figured out how, but there's some kind of energy where it needs to burst out, I guess, like a seed. You think of a seed in the ground, thinking of the Zunis here. The Zunis are so artistic, a very artistic Southern tribe, and in the Americas. And it's that huge energy just to burst out, or maybe a little chicken, even in an egg. They got to hit that with their beak, that shell.
Right. Well, in childbirth, I mean, how violent is that? It's the same thing. They kind of burst out, right? It's like, whoever said the beginnings were easy.
Haumea, here, the goddess of creation in Hawaii, the dwarf planet. We think of creation. Oh, okay, fine. What picture are we going to doodle? No, it's a violent. She's the mother of Pele, the goddess of volcanoes and birthing. Yes, it's so true. There has to be an eruption. We need to leave something to incorporate and gather up the new pieces, kind of like the beautiful part of chaos. We can grab here and there and piece them together.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Just like the sky. I mean, and that's the other thing, is like their area in the triangle Cayelin and Eric were talking about with Sirius and Procyon and Betelgeuse, that I think that was the area they were talking about there, that they constantly see new life forms coming out.
That's right. I remember reading this too, that area is where scientists have said is birthing new stars.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a correlation. There's like always a reconnection. It's fascinating if one about the esoteric, the hidden, the full, you could say philosophical, metaphysical belief structures. Like I remember with Kabbalah that 1% is visible. Well, they're finding that really what we see is, whether it's 1% or 5%, it's very tiny. There's a whole lot more out there. And yet we tend to think, because we can work with, which is important. If we have ancestors with Sirius, this is a benefit, because there's a reason why we're in our form. We have choice. We have our free will. We can choose what to focus on and how to feel, but how to release those things too that are no longer working, feeling, and understand there's this unity.
Right. Exactly.
So you're taking a course with Cayelin, and which one is that going to be? The next course?
They're doing a course on the triangles, the gateways. It's called the gateways. Yeah. And one of them is that triangle, the
The winter.
yeah.
Right, because I
Triangle
saw
and the summer triangle. Yeah.
the cross stays,
stars.
but the triangle changes with different stars. And it's the gateways are portals.
Right.
Portals of being. Well, may your portal of being be health and bountifulness and resolve of our deeper needs on a global and personal basis. Yes?
Yeah. That's right.
I'm so glad to have you back.
I know.
We'll have
It's
to-
so good to be back. It was fun.
There always has thought. Every third week is a special guest. We need focuses on the stars, so come back, Shannon.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Bye to everybody. Blessings, heaps of love. And return.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.